The collision between a Chinese guided missile destroyer and a Chinese Coast Guard cutter near the Scarborough Shoal represents far more than a simple maritime accident. It is a stark manifestation of the increasingly perilous environment created by China's aggressive expansionist policies in contested maritime regions. This incident cannot be viewed in isolation but rather as a symptom of a broader pattern of behavior characterized by disregard for international law, deliberate destabilization of regional security, and an overarching strategy aimed at asserting dominance over critical sea lanes and resources in the Asia-Pacific region. The Scarborough Shoal itself, situated in a strategic maritime crossroads, is a focal point of overlapping claims by various countries due to its rich fishing grounds and proximity to vital shipping lanes. Its control holds significant implications not only for sovereignty but also for economic security and military advantage. China's occupation and fortification of the shoal since the early 2010s have been accompanied by a steady escalation in the deployment of naval and paramilitary forces designed to enforce its claims unilaterally. This escalation culminated in the recent incident where a Chinese guided missile destroyer, a state-of-the-art warship equipped with advanced radar, missile systems, and electronic warfare capabilities, collided with a Coast Guard cutter assigned to block a Philippine mission to resupply its personnel on the shoal. This collision signals multiple failures and intentions. At the operational level, it reveals inadequate coordination within China's maritime forces, risking damage to its own assets in the pursuit of political objectives. Such reckless maneuvers reflect a military culture willing to prioritize territorial assertions over operational safety and risk management. The deployment of a destroyer alongside a Coast Guard vessel for what is fundamentally a law enforcement operation exposes an alarming militarization of civilian maritime functions, designed to intimidate and coerce smaller claimant states while avoiding formal declarations of conflict. At the strategic level, the incident epitomizes China's calculated approach to slowly changing the facts on the ground, or sea, through incremental, coercive actions. By systematically denying access to competing claimants, harassing their vessels, and establishing a physical presence, China attempts to create a fait accompli that it can then leverage diplomatically. This approach undermines multilateral conflict resolution mechanisms and directly challenges the international legal frameworks established under conventions like UNCLOS. The 2016 international arbitration ruling that invalidated China's expansive claims has been ignored with impunity, revealing Beijing's prioritization of strategic objectives over adherence to globally accepted legal norms. China's tactics rely heavily on ambiguity and layered force projection. The Coast Guard cutters and maritime militia vessels operate in a gray zone between civilian law enforcement and military aggression. This hybrid approach complicates responses from other states, which risk escalating incidents by responding militarily to actions that China portrays as routine law enforcement. The involvement of a fully armed guided missile destroyer in this incident breaks down such ambiguities, signaling an escalation in China's willingness to use outright military power under the guise of sovereignty enforcement. This shift has profound implications for regional security, raising the stakes for all parties involved. The implications extend beyond immediate tactical considerations. The South China Sea is a vital artery for global commerce, with roughly a third of all maritime shipping, carrying trillions of dollars worth of goods annually, passing through its waters. The threat posed by China's assertive actions to freedom of navigation raises the risk of disruptions to international trade flows, which could have cascading effects on the global economy. Energy shipments, including critical oil and liquefied natural gas supplies, are particularly vulnerable. The potential for an accidental or intentional confrontation in these waters risks triggering broader regional or even global conflict. China's aggressive posture has prompted increased military and diplomatic responses from regional players and global powers alike. Nations in Southeast Asia have sought to bolster their maritime capabilities, enter defense partnerships, and engage in diplomatic efforts to counterbalance Beijing's influence. The United States, in particular, has reaffirmed its commitment to freedom of navigation operations and partnerships with allies, heightening strategic competition in the Indo-Pacific. The collision, therefore, is not just a localized incident but a flashpoint in a larger geopolitical contest that shapes power balances across the region. The broader pattern of China's actions also reveals a systematic undermining of multilateral frameworks and an erosion of trust. The consistent use of coercion, intimidation, and shows of force against smaller neighbors damages the prospects for peaceful negotiation and regional cooperation. It creates a security dilemma, where each side feels compelled to increase military spending and readiness, increasing the risk of accidental clashes. This dynamic contributes to an arms race environment, destabilizing what had been relatively peaceful relations in the region. Moreover, the collision itself exposes the vulnerability of China's operational command and control structures. Damage to its own Coast Guard cutter in the course of enforcing a blockade suggests either poor coordination, rushed decision-making, or disregard for operational risk. This calls into question the professionalism and reliability of China's maritime forces in crisis situations. Given the high stakes and the density of military assets operating in the region, such incidents could easily escalate into more serious conflicts if not managed with greater care and restraint. The geopolitical ramifications of the incident are profound. By disregarding international legal rulings and aggressively enforcing territorial claims, China positions itself in opposition to the established rules-based order that underpins global peace and stability. This challenges not only its immediate neighbors but also international norms that many countries depend on to protect their sovereignty and economic interests. The erosion of these norms invites uncertainty and volatility, increasing the potential for conflict and economic disruption. For countries directly affected by China's actions, the collision serves as a painful reminder of the asymmetric power they face. Their efforts to maintain sovereign presence and assert their rights come under constant threat from a state willing to use overwhelming force and disregard diplomatic resolutions. This asymmetric dynamic pushes these countries to seek external support, deepen alliances, and invest in military modernization, further intensifying regional tensions. The collision near Scarborough Shoal exemplifies the dangerous trajectory of China's maritime strategy. It reflects a calculated but reckless pursuit of territorial dominance through coercion, military integration into civilian law enforcement, and dismissal of international law. The incident reveals internal operational weaknesses within China's forces and raises the risk of unintended escalation in a critical maritime theater. The broader impact threatens freedom of navigation, regional stability, and the global rules-based order. Addressing these challenges requires concerted international efforts to uphold legal norms, enhance crisis management, and support the sovereignty of smaller states facing coercive pressure. Without such measures, incidents like this collision will continue to imperil peace, security, and economic prosperity not only in the South China Sea but across the global maritime commons.